Good evening, I'm David Kramer here with Alaska Weather. As always, please visit our website, weather.gov/Alaska. You can get any updates to our forecast or check out any watches, warnings, or advisories that we have out for the state. Also call our weather info line of 1-800-472-0391. Get any updates to the forecast through that means as well, and you can check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. Starting off, we'll take a quick look at the advisories that we have out for the state, primarily in southwest Alaska. We'll start with the more southerly locations around Bristol Bay. That's going to be a winter weather advisory for snow. That is going to be in effect for much of Thursday. Moving up to the north to the lower Kuskokwim Valley, we have another winter weather advisory out for snow. That one's going to be valid for much of Thursday night. As we move out towards the lower Yukon Valley, that is going to be in effect from 4 p.m. Thursday till 6 p.m. on Friday. Again, that is a winter weather advisory for snow. Another advisory for snow in the upper Kuskokwim Valley. That is going to be in effect from 4 p.m. Thursday till midnight Friday night. And then out over the eastern part of the Alaska Range, we actually have two advisories out for that area. The first is a winter weather advisory for snow. That is out currently and will be valid until 6 a.m. on Thursday. And then we have a wind advisory for that same location that's going to be valid from 10 p.m. Thursday to 4 p.m. on Friday. Taking a look now at some of the factors causing these, we'll start way out west. We have one system coming in towards the western Aleutian Islands, making its way there, bringing up some warmer air, but that system is occluding, so not as much as, say, the system that we have a little bit further to the east. This system coming up towards the eastern Alaska or Aleutian Islands, bringing up a lot of warmer air, and this is the system that's going to move in and cause a lot of problems, bring a lot of snow for areas in southwest Alaska. As we look a little bit further to the east, we have one low pressure system out in the eastern parts of the Gulf that's bringing some showers to areas around the Panhandle. And then finally, we'll look over mainland Alaska, widespread cloud cover, and there are a lot of lighter showers with much of this, but you can see some of the thicker clouds over the more southeastern part of mainland Alaska, a little bit heavier snow in some of these locations. Now we can look at the remainder of today's weather. Starting off in the Panhandle area, isolated rain showers through much of the eastern part of the Gulf, along the coast, and some of the inside water areas as well. As we get up into the south central area, along the coastline there, we are seeing primarily rain showers, but as we get to any locations further inland, quickly transitioning over to snow. Seeing some heavier snow as we get up towards the Alaska Range, and then some lighter snow as we get further to western parts of the interior, up closer towards the Brooks Range, along the Arctic coastline as well, Kotzebue Sound area, and even some light showers underneath the high pressure around the Norton Sound area. Our one system pushing up from the south, bringing in some warmer air and rain, but not quite to the Alaska Peninsula and Aleutians yet. Still seeing a mix of rain and snow there. And then coming in from the west, another system bringing some more rain and snow closer towards the western Aleutians. As we move into tonight, we are going to see that system coming, bringing that rain-snow mix to the western Aleutian Islands. Our bigger system coming up towards the eastern Aleutians with that main low center just south of the Aleutian Islands, but bringing up a lot of rain to the Alaska Peninsula and central and eastern Aleutians as we move further into tonight. Ahead of that system, seeing some snow. There's still much colder over mainland Alaska. So as we get into the Bristol Bay area, seeing some snow there. High pressure keeping out much of the snow as we move further up the west coast until we get to the Brooks Range and along the Arctic coastline where we are going to see some snow up there. Some areas further to the east also going to see a mixture of fog. All the way down the eastern part of the state, going to see some isolated snow out there, including areas of the Copper River Basin. But as we get by the Yakutat area, along the coast there, we are going to see some more rain out there, a little bit warmer. And in the very southern part of the Panhandle, rain as we get closer towards the Gulf, and then snow as we push further towards inland locations. As we move into Thursday, going to continue to see some isolated rain showers, very southern parts of the Panhandle, but rest of the Panhandle, including the Yakutat area, should be under the effects of this ridging here, keeping out much of the precipitation. But we can see our system pushing in now on Thursday, bringing a lot of snow to areas of southwest Alaska up towards the Norton Sound area. But with that push of warmer air behind this system, we are seeing a lot of rain coming in. And even though we have the cold front bringing in some colder air, the push of the warm front was too strong to let let it hold on to the rain for a little bit longer into Thursday. Out west, we are seeing more rain and snow mixed towards the western Aleutian Islands. And then up north, we are seeing high pressure up there and some lighter areas of snow around the Point Hope, Point Lay areas, up by Barrow, and then way out to the east for the Brooks Range and along the Arctic coast. As we move into Friday, we are going to see our next system coming in from the west, bringing in some warm air behind the warm front, transitioning over the rain-snow mix to becoming rain. And then our system that was plaguing the area with a lot of snow on Thursday now starting to break down, but will still bring a lot of snow to southwest Alaska, including around the Bristol Bay area, lower Kuskokwim Valley, up through much of the interior. And behind this, we are going to see some snow in the south central locations, but that's going to be mixed with rain as we get further to the south. Again, we have some of that warm air pushing in, bringing a lot of rain to the Prince William Sound area. Up along the Arctic coastline, going to stay cold up there, going to see snow throughout the day on Friday. And as we move down to the Panhandle area, we do have some rain by the Yakutat area and staying mostly along the Gulf Coast, even as we get into the rest of the Panhandle all the way down to southern areas. We do have some ridging still hanging out over the Gulf of Alaska. Taking a look now at our temperatures, our lows for Thursday morning, we do have temps are getting down to just above freezing, with some places up by Haines and Skagway getting below freezing there at 27 degrees. Yakutat down to 34 for Thursday morning. As we move into south central areas along the coast, going to drop right about freezing, with Seward getting down to 32 degrees. But as we get a little bit further to the north, Valdez at 30. Other locations around south central dropping down into the 20s. Even Kodiak going to drop down to 29 degrees for Thursday morning. Up into the interior, central and eastern locations seeing temperatures in the teens, but as we push further towards the west, Galena going to be at 4 degrees, as in other locations down in the single digits in western parts of the interior. Up in the Brooks Range, single digits as well, and as we get along the Arctic coastline, dropping below zero there, with Barrow dropping down to -2. Moving down to the Kotzebue Sound area, going to see temperatures below zero there as well. Shishmaref at -7. Gamble going to be a little bit warmer, only down to 10 degrees Thursday morning. Down in the YK Delta area, single digits in northern locations, moving closer towards the Kuskokwim Delta in the teens. Then we go down into the 20s in the Bristol Bay area, and then right at or just below freezing for the Aleutian Islands, with Adak being a little bit colder there at 28 degrees, and St. Paul dropping all the way down to 25 Thursday morning. So you look into Thursday afternoon, temperatures getting above freezing into the mid-30s for the Aleutian Islands. However, Pribilof Islands with St. Paul only getting up to 29 degrees Thursday afternoon. Getting above freezing for much of the Alaska Peninsula and the eastern locations of the Bristol Bay area, but Dillingham going to stay at 31 for a high. Into the lower 20s for the YK Delta area. Teens around the Norton Sound area, but only get up to the single digits as we get in the Kotzebue Sound area, with Kotzebue getting up to 6 degrees. Single digits all the way along the Arctic coastline till Kaktovik. They're going to get up to 12 degrees there. In the Brooks Range, going to see temperatures in the teens for the most part, and as we move down into the interior, going to see temperatures getting just about freezing until we get a little bit further towards the east, like Northway, going to see 35 degrees, getting above freezing over there. In the mid to upper 30s for much of south central Alaska, Anchorage at 38 degrees. Kodiak and Homer going to be at 41 degrees. Cordova going to be at 41 as well. And then for Glen Allen area, 37 degrees for a high Thursday afternoon. Getting just into the lower 40s for much of the Panhandle. Getting a little bit warmer towards Ketchikan area, 46 for a high Thursday afternoon. Taking us into Friday morning, dropping down right about freezing. Again, a little bit colder as we get closer to Haines Skagway, dropping down to 24 degrees there. Dropping down into the upper 20s for much of south central Alaska, and into the teens to lower 20s for much of the southern part of the interior. As we get further to the north towards the Bettles area, dropping down into the single digits, and below zero for the Brooks Range and all along the Arctic coastline. That does also include, as we drop down to the Kotzebue Sound area, Norton Sound area, seeing temperatures below zero there as well. Then in the teens for the YK Delta area, mid 20s to lower 30s for the Bristol Bay area, and just about freezing for the Aleutian Islands. Then for Friday afternoon, high temperatures getting up to around 40 for the central Aleutian Islands. As we move into the Bristol Bay area, just above freezing there. Getting into the teens for the YK Delta and Norton Sound area, just above zero for Kotzebue at 4 degrees, and in the single digits for much of the Arctic coastline. taking us into the interior part of the state, getting just above freezing for much of the southern part of the interior, eastern part of the interior, above freezing for south central Alaska as well, and Panhandle should get into the lower to mid 40s, and we will be back shortly with the marine forecast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
For Marines, we'll start off looking at our flying weather. Way out west, we have some IFR conditions out over the western Aleutian Islands. As we move closer to mainland Alaska, Alaska Peninsula area, we do have some MVFR and IFR conditions with the system moving up from the south. And then our old system exiting off, we do have some MVFR and IFR conditions through much of the northern part of the state, eastern part of the state, down along the northeastern parts of the Gulf Coast, and then some MVFR through much of the Panhandle on Thursday morning. For Thursday afternoon, a lot of that is going to clear up down in the Panhandle area, but our system that was pushing in over the Alaska Peninsula now pushing even further into southwest Alaska, bringing IFR conditions through much of southwest Alaska and areas of south central as well. Areas along the Arctic coastline starting to clear up a little bit, but still MVFR into Thursday afternoon. And then out over the western and central Aleutian Islands, we do have some MVFR and IFR conditions there. Moving into Friday morning, primarily MVFR conditions over western parts of the Bering Sea and Aleutian Islands. And then our system pushing up, bringing MVFR and IFR conditions through much of south central Alaska into places of the interior and still bringing IFR conditions all around the Bristol Bay area and Alaska Peninsula. Mostly VFR conditions down in the Panhandle and still seeing some MVFR conditions along the Arctic coastline. Then into Friday afternoon, starting to get more VFR along the Arctic coastline, but eastern parts of the Brooks Range going to see some IFR conditions, and IFR conditions through much of the Alaska Range, including many areas around south central. Prince William Sound going to see some IFR as well. MVFR conditions starting to move into the Panhandle area, but still mostly over the Gulf of Alaska, pushing into much of the northwestern parts of the Panhandle. And we have way out west another front moving in. We have some IFR conditions out over the central and western Aleutian Islands. Taking us now to our passes, AKwx will start off IFR, improve to MVFR conditions on Thursday, as well as Adigan Pass. Lake Clark and Merrill both start off VFR, drop all the way down to IFR as that system moves in from the south. Rainy Pass will be MVFR. However, that's going to start off MVFR in the morning. There will be a slight break up to VFR conditions before dropping back down to MVFR in the afternoon. Windy Pass also going to be MVFR throughout the day. Isabel Pass going to start off IFR, improve to marginal conditions later on Thursday. Mentasta Pass starting off IFR, improving to VFR in the afternoon on Thursday. Tenita Pass, MVFR conditions expected. Those will drop down to IFR in the afternoon. Portage will start off VFR, drop all the way down to IFR in the afternoon. And then Chilkoot and White will both start off IFR, improve all the way to VFR conditions on Thursday afternoon. Taking a look at our freezing levels, we have some warmer air over northwestern parts of Canada, but we also have a little tongue of warmer air pushing up over the Panhandle area, but primarily we have our warmer air moving up with the system moving up from the North Pacific towards the Alaska Peninsula, bringing in warmer air towards Kodiak Island and out by the Alaska Peninsula. Surface freezing line riding through the southern part of the Bering Sea on Thursday morning. For our icing, we have areas out over the western Aleutian Islands below 4,000 feet there, below 3,000 to 8,000 feet as we get over the Bristol Bay area up towards south central Alaska. This area is going to push further inland as we move throughout the day. Along the Arctic coastline, below 4,000 feet there, and then in the eastern parts of the Panhandle, we do have between 1,000 and 5,000 feet. For our jet, we'll start off in the west. We have branched the jet 120 knots, moving into 100 knots out of a southerly direction over southwest Alaska, 100 knots through the interior, and then exiting at 110 as we get over the Panhandle area on Thursday. For our 9,000 feet winds, we do have an area of low pressure with winds circulating around that by the eastern Aleutian Islands. Winds moving over the Alaska Peninsula up to as high as 50 knots out of that southerly direction. Southerly flow 15 to 25 out over the western part of the Bering Sea. And then we have southwesterly flow moving in over south central area of the state, 30 to 35 knots there. Still westerly flow as we get further to the north, dropping down to around 20 knots, and then northerly flow around 20 knots out over the Panhandle. Dropping down to 3,000 feet, we have somewhat westerly flow, pretty light, only around 10 knots for the Panhandle area. As we move in over the south central, southerly flow 15 knots, becoming westerly as we get further to the north, 20 to 25 knots there, strongest as we get up by that low pressure system. And as we look down over the eastern parts of the Bering Sea, we have our low pressure here down at 3,000 feet as well. and that's going to have some stronger winds circulating around it, 30 to 40 knots. Strongest winds on the southeastern side, as we see a little bit further south, 50 knots there, moving up into the state at around 30. Then for our turbulence, below 5,000 to 6,000 feet over the southwestern part of the state, below 4,000 feet over the central and eastern Aleutians, and 4,000 over by the western Aleutians. We'll be back shortly with the marine forecast.
It's kind of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the stratus starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information and crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision-making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES-17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES-S will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back for the marine forecast. We'll start off with a quick look at the ice edge. We do have ice expanding down the whole ice edge, moving further to the south with some of the cold air in place. However, as we get closer towards the weekend, we do expect another system to come up and push back the ice a little bit more. Looking at our coastal marines for Thursday, we'll start off in the southeast. We have light winds out of the west closer towards Yakutat area throughout much of the Gulf of Alaska. But as we get into the inside waters, still going to be pretty weak out of a westerly direction. Seas only around 2 feet in the inside waters. Then on Friday, flow becoming a little bit more northerly, still pretty light though, about 10 knots, 10 to 15 knots in the Gulf. Seas only about 5 or 6 feet in the Gulf. As we move into south central for Thursday, we do have lighter winds out by Prince William Sound, northern part of the Gulf, picking up a little bit as we get by the Barren Islands out of a more easterly direction, around 25 knots there, and then diminishing as we get further up into Cook Inlet, down to around 10 knots in the northern part of Cook Inlet. Then on Friday, we do have flow out by the Barrens out of a southerly direction, around 20 knots there, getting up to as high as 20 knots in Prince William Sound out of an easterly direction there, and then in Cook Inlet, a east to northeast direction around 15 knots. Seas as high as 8 feet east of the Barren Islands. As we move down into the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island areas, we have circulation around our low pressure system being southerly flow on the Pacific side, becoming more easterly as we get to the Bering side, 30 to 35 knots for wind, getting up strongest as we get into Bristol Bay area, then around 20 to 25 knots around Kodiak Island. On Friday, we have southwesterly flow, anywhere from 20 to 30 knots, lowest as we get closer towards Shelikof Strait, stronger as we get to the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then around 20 knots on the Bering side. As we move to the Aleutian Islands, we have flow out of a primarily northerly direction, 25 to 35 knots, strongest as we get closer towards the eastern Aleutians, and then diminishing a little bit down to 30 knots as we get south of the eastern Aleutians. Out by the western Aleutian Islands, easterly flow, 25 to 35 knots, getting stronger as we get further to the west. Then on Friday, flow becoming a little bit more southerly, around 30 knots there, with seas 14 to 15 feet for the western Aleutian Islands, becoming more northerly as we get closer towards the eastern Aleutian Islands, 15 to 20 knots there, with seas as high as 10 feet on the Pacific side. So we get closer towards the central Aleutian Islands, seas picking up to around 14 feet there. Along the west coast of the state, primarily a northeasterly flow, weaker as we are up further to the North Norton Sound area, but picking up to around 30 knots as we get by Nunavik Island and down by the Pribilof Islands, 30 knots out of that northeast direction. Seas 8 to 11 feet, strongest as we get further to the south. Then on Friday, flow continuing to be somewhat northerly, a little bit stronger Norton Sound area, 25 knots there, getting up to as high as 30 knots by Nunavik Island. Seas as high as 12 feet by the Pribilof Islands. So look along the Arctic coastline, pretty weak flow, 10 to 15 knots until we get along the Arctic coastline, 20 knots there. A little bit varying wind directions, northeasterly flow by Barrow, becoming more westerly as we get further off to the east by Kaktovik area. Then on Friday, all becoming southwesterly, 15 to 20 knots along the Arctic coastline. Westerly flow along the west coast of the state, getting higher as we get closer towards the Bering Strait area, 25 knots there. Quick recap for the state. We have a system coming in from the North Pacific that is bringing up some warm air that's going to bring some rain to the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutian Islands. But as we look out over the southwestern part of the state, going to stay a little bit colder there and expecting to see more snow with the system coming up. We do have several winter weather advisories over southwest Alaska. All of these are for snow. Please check our website or listen to your NOAA Weather Radio for any information on those winter weather advisories. Up along the northern part of the state, we do have some snow mixed in with some fog in the eastern locations. That is for tonight. And then along the east coast of the state, some snow going down into the Copper River Basin as well. And some lighter rain showers along the coastline for the Panhandle, Yakutat areas. And then we do have some isolated areas of snow showers in the southern part of the Panhandle as we get a little bit further inland. For Thursday, just some light rain showers expected for the very southern part of the Panhandle. Rest of the Panhandle should be dry under the effects of this ridging. As we move up over mainland Alaska, northern part of the state, going to see some snow, but as we drop down to the southwest, we are going to see this system pushing in, bringing all that snow to southwest Alaska, areas along the Alaska Range as well, and some places in south central Alaska. Some warm air coming up, bringing some rain to Kodiak Island, areas around Bristol Bay, southern parts of Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, and then way out west we have a mix of rain and snow expected there. Into Friday, that system finally breaking down, but still bringing some snow to southwest Alaska into the interior part of the state. And then we are going to see some snow from a different system up north, bringing in some snow to the Arctic coastline and some areas of rain for the North Gulf Coast. With Alaska Weather, I'm David Kramer. Thanks for being with us.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.